Thanks, Sarah.
Awesome. But again, good morning, everyone. Happy you're here to join us for Bagels and Best Practice. We're super excited to be in conversation with you this morning. And as I mentioned, hopefully you have a cup of coffee or tea, and Murray, you've got your bagel at hand, which is amazing. But we really want this to be an engaging conversation and highlight a program here that's doing amazing work, the JK movement, and talk about some really great resources for you all as well. So first, I want to just take a minute to be mindful. And while we're going to watch a super short clip, it's only about a minute, it's showing what mentoring would look like if it's flipped. So as a mentee being the mentor and a mentor being the mentee. And while we're watching it, I just invite you to reflect on who believed in you.
What's wrong, Isaiah?
Man, people keep telling me I'm not tall enough, and I'll never make it to the next level.
Look at me. Don't ever let someone tell you what you can't do. I know you can make it to the next level. You can even be in the NBA someday.
You really think so?
I know so.
Thanks, man. I'm gonna make you proud. You don't need all the time in the world or to be an NBA All-Star to be someone's hero. Be my brother's keeper.
Be a mentor.
In real life.
Go to mentoring.org.
And become a mentor.
Thanks, Sarah. So while we're here together in this space, I just encourage you to continue to think about that person who believed in you, the impact they had on you in your life. And as we discuss the power of mentorship this morning, I really just invite you to kind of reflect on that person. So, all right, let's dive in. This is our roadmap for this morning, sort of guiding us through our journey. Well, for those of you that are new, maybe to joining us, welcome. We're going to introduce Mentor Minnesota. We're going to introduce a couple of mentor resources, including the elements of effective practice for mentoring, a guide to mentoring boys and young men of color, and My Brother's Keeper initiative. We're also going to highlight some key concepts, so important considerations, and facilitate a conversation in this work. We're going to hear from our special guest, Johnny Allen, both founder and executive director of the JK movement. And then we're going to have some space, hopefully at the end, for some questions and answers and just a place to connect. So as we're introducing ourselves, we'd also like to get to know all of you. So in the chat, if you wouldn't mind, please share your name and pronoun, your program or organization or school. I know there's a few schools joining us today. And then share something that you're great at. So, and please continue to share this throughout the morning. But here's some examples, cooking, skiing, a sport. Maybe it's also a trait that you have, that you're a good listener. But again, just encourage you to go ahead and keep sharing in the chat so we can get to know you a little bit better. And with that, I want to hand the mic over to my incredible team, Sarah and Allie, who are here with us today. Sarah, I'll kick it over to you.
Hi, everybody. Hopefully you can see me well. It's the first day it's been sunny in a long time. So of course the sun is streaming into my basement office window, but my name is Sarah Schaefer, she, her. I'm the executive director at Mentor Minnesota. I'm really pleased that we're here and joined by Johnny Allen so we can learn about how we can incorporate this good work into our own organizations. Something I'm really good at is probably biking. I'm really good at biking. I love biking. If you ever want to go on a bike ride, just let me know. But I will kick it over to Allie.
Hello, everyone. I'm Allie Ervig, she, her, and I'm the marketing and development manager at Mentor Minnesota. And I will say baking, I think. I can make some good sourdough. So yeah, I'll send it back over to Emily.
Thanks, Allie and Sarah. Again, I'm so happy you're here with me this morning. I'm Emily Garay, she, her. I'm the program director here at Mentor Minnesota. And something I feel like I'm good at, I'm a strong swimmer. I love the water. And so I learned early on to swim. Maybe I was a mermaid in another life or a fish, but I do love the water. So, but Go ahead and continue to share in the chat if you're just joining us. We just asked for folks to share your name and pronoun and the organization you're joining us with, and then something that you're great at. And with that, we really want to kind of ground us in understanding a little bit more about Mentor Minnesota. And our mission is to fuel the quality and quantity of equitable and inclusive developmental relationships. So really what that means is we want to support you, the adults. We believe in holistic youth development, and we want to do that through elevating quality, connecting people to each other, like this morning, and then also expanding the movement and influencing systems. We also believe in empirical research and using evidence-based practices as our guide and providing support and resources such as these that we're going to be highlighting a few of those today. The main one is our EEP, so the Elements for Effective Practice for Mentoring. This is really, it's a collection of research-based best practices and really the foundational resource that we use to provide all of our guidance. And so the EEP, as I mentioned, is a research-informed practice guide to mentoring programs, and it promotes overall program quality and strong mentoring relationships by recommending evidence-based standards and benchmarks that programs then can implement into delivering those services into their own program. Included in this are 6 elements: recruitment, screening, matching, training, monitoring and support, and closure. And in addition to the EEP, Mentor has also developed a suite of supplements that provide additional resources and support for the ongoing development of valuable guidance. And for highlighting a couple of those today is really our goal. The first one is the Guide to Mentoring Boys and Young Men of Color, and the second is My Brother's Keeper. And being mindful that we only have an hour here together, a little bit less than that right now, but I'll be touching on each of these at a high level, but don't be discouraged. I'll be sure to, give you all of these resources in a wraparound, and so that you can kind of take some time to really dive into those if you're interested. But just for our purposes today, I wanted to kind of hit them at a high level. And as we know, 2020, though we're in 2022 now, but 2020 was a year of really twin pandemics, COVID-19 and racial injustice. And I think COVID unveiled a divide really regarding race and socioeconomic status when we learned how it was disproportionately impacting particular communities and all of the reasons why. Boys and young men of color are disproportionately disconnected from caring non-parental adults. And data shows that Black, Indigenous, and Latino young people are twice as likely to be disconnected from caring non-parental adults as compared to their peers in the Asian American and white communities. And while data only shows us one part of the story, we know that many boys and young men of color do have caring, committed adults in their lives. It's worthwhile to note that many do not have that access to a web of intentional guidance and support at an age when their adult identities and experiences and skills are really in that developmental stage. They're learning how to understand themselves and provide, the context of they're building out this identity and understanding themselves. And so mentors can have a lasting impact for those young people and really help ensure that young people have voice, power, and choice, and provide spaces where young people can lean into building their own power. And mentoring can be a pathway to success in helping them successfully navigate transitions from school to work and from childhood to adulthood. So born out of an understanding about these issues facing both boys and men of color, their surrounding ecosystems, My Brother's Keeper Alliance vision was focused on eliminating these gaps and hoping to provide and expand the opportunities and outcomes. So along with the support of Mentor, a suite of resources was created to uplift this work. And that's what we're going to be talking about today. So first, we're going to look at the Guide to Mentoring Boys and Young Men of Color. This guide has two parts. The first one offers an overview of an approach mentoring of boys and young men of color, including a description of that it's strength-based, and then also talking about a liberatory approach to mentoring called critical mentoring. And this section discusses how this approach can support and also provides rationale for this new and emerging set of recommended practices. The second part is, as I mentioned, the EEP, or the elements of effective practice. It includes all of those standards and rationale for the importance, but then it also lists additional recommendations and practices as discussed a little bit more further than that. So first, let's dive into that part one. And so that's really highlighting this liberatory and strength-based approach called critical mentoring. And I really want to spend a little bit more time on this because, as you'll notice, that this first section really helps lay the groundwork and the foundation to those elements of effective practice for mentoring. So those I'll hit at a really high level, but this first part is important to note. So what is critical mentoring? Critical mentoring asks to consider the context that youth exist in. So this is where community input is vital when it comes to creating and supporting programming, not for community, but rather with community. So it's inviting folks to the table to discuss concerns, goals, etc. And then alter those mentoring practices to help young people address those issues. It also means, critical mentoring also means being youth-centric. And youth-centric is ensuring voice, power, and choice. So it's really grounding that mentoring program with input given by young people. And that being said, understanding that youth are capable and that providing youth with a platform, so really creating that space and place to innovate and partner with us. And where, you might ask, where do we partner with youth in that? Everywhere. Another part of being youth-centric is passing the mic, and that's allowing opportunities for young people to speak for themselves versus us speaking for them, really allowing them to just go ahead and be able to say what they feel. And then opportunities to let youth lead. And this is important too, as you know, we see young people sometimes as, you know, they're not ready, or you know, maybe wanting to take over a space and have them follow. Being youth-centric is so critical, and really allowing those young people that they have it in them. They have these inherent talents and abilities to go ahead and lead. And the other piece is being culturally, you know, understanding both cultural competency, which is really sort of this understanding that you've completed that. But I think maybe more importantly, or the emphasis on being culturally humble, which means that we're always continuing to learn. And that doesn't mean, when we're talking about being youth-centric, that, you know, adults don't have a piece in this. We very much do. That's what brings us here as mentors, right? So this key component of intergenerational dialogue is so important, because it's really talking about this reciprocal conversation of allowing that elder wisdom and the young people's voice to be in conversation, and the back and forth between them, and really allowing young people to deserve the best in us so that they can be better than us. I will also just mention that mentoring can really open a door into providing that conversation. So the second part that we'll talk about, and again, I know that this will be I'll be cruising along a little bit, but we're going to be just talking and kind of hit at a high level each of these pieces to the EEP, and then the supplement that goes with them when it comes to this special considerations and recommendations. So the part two, and the first part being recruitment, talking about how the importance of being culturally competent and humble is really important when it comes to recruitment. And the other thing I want to really highlight about the recruitment is feelings of care for their community and life experiences that are relevant to those mentoring skills. The second one, screening. Excuse me. Screen for mentor suitability if your program has emphasized a critical mentoring approach. And again, that's thinking back to that critical mentoring that you're considering the context that youth exist in, and then altering mentoring practices to help young people address those issues. The third of matching, so that's avoid matching. The recommendation is to avoid matching exclusively on racial and ethnic background, unless this is a critical part of your mentoring model. And that a thoughtful consideration is to really ensure that matches are community driven, meaning that you're already a part of the community, and really emphasizing the importance of with community rather than for. And the other piece with matching too is that you're involving the mentees' families. This is vital when it comes to ensuring that the match is going to be a right fit, is that you involve that conversation with family members to really discuss what's best for that mentee. Training, this is perhaps one of the biggest pieces that you as program leaders could maybe really dig into, if you will. So this is planning and delivering effective training really requires skill, but one can only become a better trainer through a continual practice and reflection. So even all of you being here with us today, I appreciate it. And it shows that we want to be in this continual conversation and continual learning as we practice and reflect. And a good place to start the planning process is identifying the goals for your training. So what should training participants know and be able to do after the training? And then again, using those critical mentoring concepts as really your basis for basic and advanced training. And then another piece that I wanted to point out with the training is the focus on the concepts of critical consciousness and cultural humility. Again, you'll hear those over and over, but it's so important. Always trying to remember to walk softly as we're walking this path of being program leaders for young people. And in the chat, we'll go ahead and share an example of this too for training, is maybe talking about that if you would want to implement it in some of your training practices, is understanding implicit bias. It's tough stuff, to talk about sometimes, but I think it's really critical in understanding and continuing to learn and grow. And as we're moving, I know I'm going really quickly over this. That's because I'm excited to introduce our special guest today too. But if at any point, you can always reach out to me with questions or go ahead and pop them in the chat, and then we can go back at the end and answer some questions. But the last two elements that I'll talk about before we talk about my brother's keeper for a bit is monitoring and support along with closure. And a couple of the key concepts here to point out is that program staff should really inquire about the interactions between mentors and mentees. And these interactions should include issues that might be talking about race, ethnicity, class, and language, and then provide ongoing training and support for that match. And it's also, I know that there's some school folks here with us today. And so for programs that are on a school year, it's strongly maybe consider those matches, how you're going to be able to allow them to stay in touch during program gaps. So whether that's over the summer, if that's an extended holiday break, but understanding the importance and how when you're talking about monitoring and support, what that looks like in those gaps of your schedule. And then closure. So a couple of things to note here are to teach your mentee to find another mentors is really, kind of continuing that cycle. And it's throughout that whole mentor relationship that you're kind of always having this conversation about it. And then also assessing the role that conflict around race and culture may have played in unexpected match closure via conversation with your with mentors, and again, including parents and the mentees in that conversation. So again, these are those 6 elements to effective practice for mentoring. But again, the guide to mentoring boys and young men of color then has an additional those recommendations and for practice that go along with that. And the second resource that we're excited to talk about a little bit this morning is My Brother's Keeper. And this is really a set of resources and tools that were created or collected specifically for schools implementing a success mentor strategy. And so in the chat, we'll go ahead and share this initiative with folks. And then with that, we're going to just kind of talk about some of the key components to this resource. So My Brother's Keeper is, again, as I mentioned, a suite of resources and tools. In that suite of resources and tools includes a school checklist for development and launching a successful mentors program. I love some of these pieces to it. It's really, really great material, well done. There's the ABCs of school-based mentoring. Again, the EEP or the elements of effective practice is in there. And then again, as I kind of did that high level hit of the supplemental materials to the guide to mentoring boys and young men of color, that's also included. And then along with that, they also have a training curriculum that's embedded in there. And included in that is critical mentoring, and also trauma-informed mentoring and compassion fatigue, and talking about all those things. And part of what makes My Brother's Keeper such a powerful resource is that it includes this trauma-informed responsive training. And we want to remain aware of really the ongoing trauma that our young people are facing right now, and then provide you with the resources that provide this support and relevancy for what's happening in our lives of our young people. With this trauma-informed and responsive mentoring, a really high level overview of this is that the informed is the strategy to change mindset for long-term results. And that's successful strategies to address ACEs are not another, excuse me, I'm just going to back up. So successful strategies to address ACEs are not just another new program or initiative. So in this, they're changing the mindset and culture, focusing on what happened to the individual and including ways to engage with them. So from what's wrong with you, this mentality of that, to changing to what happened to you. This change in mindset requires significant community education and opportunities for dialogue, but it can really reduce adversity and increase positive experiences. And the other part of this trauma-informed and responsive mentoring is the health as a double continuum. So that's a really robust health, requires both reducing the level of adversity and increasing the level of positive experiences. And in doing that, we can help build resiliency for our young people. So again, I really wanted to touch on that for you school folks that are here and other program leaders, that in this suite of My Brother's Keeper, that trauma-informed training is really important, I think, right now as a discussion of mental health and really the trauma that our young people are facing. And really knowing too that we know that having a caring and consistent adult can help protect and buffer children from toxic stress. It can help young people heal and build resiliency. It can reduce levels of hormones that are a result of trauma. And supportive adults should really celebrate, comfort, listen, and collaborate with young people in order to really build strong relationships. So with that, I think before I'm going to take a break from talking, and I'm sure you all are tired of hearing my voice a little bit, I think it's just important as a takeaway to these two resources is programs to really be continually reflecting on how they fit into the larger social movements around equity, around community building, around social justice, and on their staff's commitment to these issues. And all of that to really enhance the ability to connect and positively impact the greater community. And with that, we're excited to really uplift champions in this work that are doing just that. And we're excited to be joined by the JK movement. and the founder and executive producer, well, I think he does do a little bit of that. We're going to be showing a video, but the executive director, Johnny Allen. The JK movement offers at-risk youth the opportunity to work with caring mentors designed to empower youth with a can-do spirit, and so that they can become healthy citizens within their communities. We're going to be playing a short video, and I'm going to hand the mic over to Johnny here in a bit.
So the JK movement just completed its second year of our summer program with COVID being around. And I have to say, from last year to this year, another phenomenal job with our coaches and with the youth that took part. Hey, what can I say? This has been fun. It's fun because we're seeing our kids grow. They're becoming more mature. They're having fun. They're being kids. And at the same time, they're learning the importance of rules and expectations, especially coming from our coaches with the JK movement. You know, myself and the coaches, we still have our mindset to continue working with our young folks just like a tree and its seed. You plant it, you water it, you watch it grow, and eventually it turns into a mighty, mighty big old oak tree in per se in regards of certain seeds. We want to continue to see our kids grow and prosper and become their own selves, and at the same time build that relationship and polish it to the best way that we know best from the JK movement's perspective. So I congratulate our young folks. I congratulate the parents for continuing to trust us. And a huge shout out and love to our staff here at the JK movement.
So maybe, Johnny, you are an executive producer a bit too with creating that. But to be mindful again of time, and I want to give you as much time and space as I'm able to. So I want to really, again, welcome Johnny Allen, the founder and executive director of the JK movement. Johnny has a true compassion for working with youth and nurturing their physical and mental development. He understands the importance of supporting the well-being of youth. He believes with supportive guidance and proper training for healthy living and life skills that youth will demonstrate a physical, mental, and emotional burst of growth in their lives, leading them to success and their innate destiny. He's firmly committed to making the JK movement organization a community leader in youth development. He's born and raised here in St. Paul, graduated from Highland Park High School, received his BA in business from the University of St. Thomas, go Tommies, and has 20 plus years of experience mentoring, volunteering, and always pursuing to be the best positive role model to youth. So with that, over to Johnny.
Morning. I did not get a bagel. I don't even have coffee this morning. So, but I'm all about the best practice piece. So, thank you. Thank you for this opportunity. Morning, everyone. When you're presenting, you always have to, you try to come with a agenda, how you want to approach it. And after listening to you, Sister Emily, on how you, on elements of effective practice for mentoring and My Brother's Keeper and some of the resources and the trainings and opportunities that us as mentors or just staff or whatnot working with you can take advantage of. I was like, you know what? I'm gonna throw all that out. I'm gonna freestyle this because I want to first and foremost say I don't have all the answers. I'm just a guy who was blessed to run an organization, to be brought up in the Rondo area in St. Paul, to have community people along with my parents who believed in me and saw something in me along with the rest of our kids to do what we do and be effective and productive citizens out here in the world. So with that being said, everything that you mentioned in regards of some of the training pieces and some of the opportunities that we can take advantage of is how I was brought up indirectly. And I think that's so important in regards of how we work with our youth, particularly our Black boys and Black girls and kids of color, because you have to look at yourself in the mirror and ask yourself, is this what I want to do? Am I passionate? Is this my purpose to build relationship with youth? Because just like anybody else in life, with people that you interact with, build relationships with, you're setting them up for whatever type of relationship you're going to build. And some of the skills and things that you talk about come in indirectly on how you do that. It doesn't have to necessarily have to be training or whatnot. It just comes in directly, because it's important to know that the number one thing, and you mentioned it, is you have to want to see other people be successful, especially youth. So when you're building relationship with young folks, especially Black boys and Black girls in this era, they can tell if you're in it for them, or if you're just there there's other elements of why people do things, but they'll know if you're there for them or not. So when you work with Black boys, Black girls, and kids of color, you really have to ask yourself, am I doing it for the right reasons? And do I really want to see them be successful? Because they will tell if you're phony or fake real quick within those first 7 seconds. So that's important, because the way I was brought up, as I mentioned, I had mentors who I still consider mentors, who were neighborhood people who wasn't looking for compensation, wasn't looking for anything, but wanted to see us be successful. Knowing that we were in a safe location. And like I said, all these things that you're talking about are coming indirectly. So knowing that we're in a safe environment, knowing that they are a caring, trusting adult, holding us accountable, letting our parents know if we were doing something that we weren't supposed to be doing in the neighborhood. Like, all of these things come in regards of some of the things that you're talking about, the elements, the practices, but these are people that wasn't looking for anything in return. They just saw potential in us as young folk. And we use those values today. And that's how we use it with the JK movement. And I don't know, I don't see the PowerPoint right now, but Emily, if you can put up our element of theory of change model.
Yeah, do that right now.
This is like the blueprint of how we work with our youth. And it's in relations to what you were talking about earlier in regards of like the 6 elements or social emotional learning, these buzzwords that we need to learn from an educational perspective. But me growing up, working with, having mentors, holding me accountable, trusting me, and I'm trusting them, my parents trusting them. These are some of the values that were embedded in me outside of my parents on how we work with our youth, particularly our Black boys and Black girls and kids of color. We want them to know that we're there for them through thick and thin, because they're not going to be saints. A lot of our youth are going through so many issues on a daily basis, and they don't know who to turn to. And most of the time they resort to behaviors that we see on a regular basis. They're letting out that frustration, they're letting out that trauma issue that they're dealing with on a daily basis. So coming in, as I mentioned, you gotta have thick skin, and you have to be in it to win it. This is nothing to play with when we're working with our babies and just people in general with their lives. You gotta let them know that you're going to be there for them. So from the beginning, they're identifying their journey, they're evaluating their choices. Most of the time they're going to be bad choices, but as long as you're there, you're making that initial contact and you're being consistent with them through the thick and thin, they're gonna break that wall down eventually. It's not going to be an overnight sensation, but eventually they're going to get there. And through their good and bad, you still got to be there. I mean, as I mentioned, we had mentors. I had people in our neighborhood that held us accountable. They told my parents got on me, but they're letting us know like, hey, we're watching you. We want you to be successful, but we're going to hold you accountable. So even through the bad, you got to be with them and let them know, hey, I'm with you. Let's figure out what we can do to turn this around. And eventually, like I said, they start chipping down that wall of trust, because it's not going to happen overnight. And as you can see, once you build that relationship, once you get there with that young person, you start that journey with them. Now you're going with that strength base, as you mentioned, because I do follow the strength base. I'm a firm believer in strength based practices, because you want to know what their strengths are and also work on their weaknesses to get so it can become a strength. So you're choosing you're getting to that positive path. You're letting them know that you're a safe haven location or environment. Now you can put in that guidance outside. Once you get that trust, once you know that they're there for you and they are there for you, you can actually start utilizing those skill sets that you're talking about. You're providing resources not only for them but also the parents. That's another thing that we tend to forget about. It's not just the kid. We got to work with the parents as well. Even if it's not the best communication wavelength, as long as you're consistent and you're somehow letting them know what's going on with their child when they're with you, eventually they're seeing it regardless. But then, once again, you're breaking down that wall of relationship building pieces that we're talking about. So you're providing resources not only for the kid but also for the parents. Maybe they need some help as well. So it's not just the kid that we're working with the family. Wraparound system. We talk about these buzzwords, but it's very important to know that, like I said, indirectly we're utilizing these skill sets. It's just that our flow is a little different. So you're building relationship, you're starting that journey with them, you're kind of figuring out what they want to do. You get them exposed to opportunities that they're not accustomed to seeing on a regular basis. One thing about me, I was a Boy Scout growing up. So you know how you used to get merit badges of doing things that you probably wouldn't do on a regular basis. We kind of use that philosophy with what we do with our youth. You expose them to opportunities that they probably wouldn't see or know about on a regular basis outside of their own circle. So we get them in front of people that are lawyers, or we get them in front of people that have MMA fighters. You just want to get them exposed to career opportunities and with people that's already doing it, to let them know, hey, you can be whoever you want, however you want, and these are the opportunities, and you can hear their story of how they got there. So if whatever decision you make along the way, we got your back and we can help you with getting you exposed to those opportunities. From there, the value of belonging. I mean, starting your journey and the value of belonging go hand in hand, because now they're feeling like I got someone in my corner. At first they were still tapping into it, like, okay, I'm gonna see how, maybe they might still do something a little knuckleheadish or something, but you're still there with them. The value of belonging is where it's at. Now they have your 100 grand. They trust you completely. They know that they can talk to you about whatever. They can text you. You can guide them if they're, you're their support mechanism, and that's important. Our young folks need someone outside of their families that they can trust. And that's just bottom line. And we've been fortunate enough to build those relationships with them because we've been consistent. We held them accountable. And now, with the history of the JK movement, I still have some of the young folks who I've worked with when they were in junior high and now they're grown, who's working or in college, that still, seek me out or say hello and text me and ask for guidance, and that's that value of belonging, that's important. So, encouraged to be open mind, connections are made, support, recognition, that trust, as I mentioned, is important. So from there, the desired results of discovering who they are, it goes, all of these things go hand in hand in what we do. Now they're just the sky is above the limit. But as I mentioned, these are youth that deal with trauma issues on a daily basis. So it's like a roller coaster, but they know that the skill sets that we're helping them with, they can overcome those challenges, and they can seek out resources on their own because of the lessons and teachings that we're helping them with along the way. You know, it's not just that they reach for us, you know, that's where that wraparound system comes in. You know, everybody that has the skin in the game, they can reach out to them now. They can talk to them about it. So that goes, as I mentioned, my theory of change model is our blueprint of how we work with our young folks. Eventually, at the end, hard work, great results, but it's not an overnight sensation. As I mentioned, it goes, I mean, as I mentioned, I have young folks that are in junior high, or that I started with, that were in junior high, that are in their early 20s now, and I still talk to them. They ask for guidance. So it's an everyday thing. You know, mentoring shouldn't be short term. It should be long term. I'm a firm believer in that. And that's why I say you have to look at yourself in the mirror and ask yourself, am I really doing this for the right reasons? Because when they talk about short-term mentoring or things of that nature, I try to fade away a little bit of that, because our kids need more than just 6 months or a year in regards to relationship building with a person. It takes longer than that. It's ongoing. You know, especially with how we work with our youth with the JK movement. I mean, it's long term. It's like a big brother, big sister, little sister type of relationship. It's ongoing. So these are some of the things that I'm just going off with my own experiences and how we've been effective with working with our young Black boys and girls and kids of color. You know, it's long-term mentoring. It's strength-based. You know, you're going along with them with the journey. It's no different than what you were talking about, Sister Emily, but indirectly. I mean, it goes, you just have to ask yourself, am I going to do this? And am I doing it for the right reasons? You know, and when you do it for the right reasons, beautiful things happen. You're not going to get rich in this field. You can be comfortable, but you know, you're not going to get rich in this industry because you're affected. You're going to get rich by seeing your babies grow up and graduating and starting a family and being productive out here in society and giving it back. You know, we run a summer camp, a SAQ camp, and the young folks who I mentor are now helping facilitate. So it runs it back, you know, pay it forward. And these are some of the skill sets that we help them along the way with once you build that relationship with the young folks. So as you mentioned, as you can see in the next slide, you know, we run school-based, but we also run our own site. You know, group mentoring is important. I love one-on-ones, but group mentoring is kind of where it's at, because we help our young folks not only identify who they are, but they're able to interact with other of their peers. You know, we do believe in peer relationships, you know, and so they work together. I come from an athletic background, so teamwork makes the dream work. So having them work together as a team on certain projects or activities or service learning opportunities is important, because as I mentioned, the skill sets that we're helping them with, they can actually go hands-on and utilize them themselves, and still they know that we got their back in regards of helping them if they need it. But we try to give our young folks the autonomy to and the initiative to run their own ship with the leadership of our staff. So that's important to us. And I'm very supportive of service mentoring. Giving back in society and the community is huge. My story, I did graduate from Highland and St. Thomas, but as I was going along that journey, I used to mentor at my old elementary school in high school. When I was in high school, I used to go and mentor at my old elementary school with my favorite teacher, Miss Swanson. And so giving back in society, showing the young folks that, hey, I want to see you be successful too. Miss Swanson was a great mentor of mine who was so happened to be a teacher. She gave me those skill sets to help me give it back of some sort. So giving our young folks an opportunity to give back of what we're teaching them is huge, you know, because then they're understanding that there's other people out here that are dealing with whatever challenges that they're dealing with as well. And what can I do to assist them and make them feel happy or better with that short time, you know, with the service mentoring and service learning projects that we do. So I'm a firm believer in that. And we definitely try to do one per quarter with our organization to let our kids know, hey, these are the lessons that we're helping you with. Now pay it forward and give it back of some sort. But we're going to let you guys decide what kind of project you want to do. So, you know, when you talk about youth-led opportunities, those are some of the avenues we create for our young folks is, you know, give them an opportunity to figure out or create a project that they want to do. They don't have to reinvent the wheel with anything, but we'll give them the opportunity to lead it. And what are some of the practices that they can utilize in with the service learnings. So
I think that's great too, John. I was just going to mention it, you know, so many things. I'm just so excited you're here with us and to absorb all of your wisdom and knowledge and your experience as well. And I love that you touched on that youth leadership piece and the service mentoring. And I think in doing that too, you're not only helping build up confidence and, you know, for themselves to do something like that, but then also building out and showing that web of support within community and building those connections for themselves too, and kind of just doing all of that. But, you know, and so all of these connections are huge. Everything, you know, I also love how you mentioned kids can smell baloney like miles away. So they can tell if you're being authentic, if you're being genuine, or you're not. And it could be something as small as saying, hey, or, you know, a fist bump in the morning, to again, leading to being able to guide and mentor them into doing some service mentorship. But I think even those small moments, they show that authenticity and that they are valued and that young people matter. I had a young person one time mentioned to me, you know, that I was the only person that said good morning and like the whole day, you know, or the only person that recognized that they were there. And so we don't know everyone's story, and our young people especially. So I think all those moments are so powerful. So again, I appreciate all the work that you're doing over there. It's so valuable.
Appreciate it, sister. Yeah. As I mentioned, you know, the teachings and the skills and the resources that you guys are providing, you know, it just, I mean, I lived it, you know, and like I said, it just comes in directly. As you see this picture, you know, one of our opportunities was going to, at the time we were across the street from a senior citizen home. So, you know, we were able to build relationships with King's Crossing. And at first we were providing, you know, we used to get in-kind donations from Panera. So they used to help us bag them, you know, because COVID hit. So we had to do individual bags and just meeting up with the health codes. But eventually we were able to have our young folks go over there and interact with them and hear their stories and vice versa. And it turned out to be a beautiful thing. So, you know, when you're doing the things, when you do the things the right way, everything just falls in place. You know, when you do it from an ethical perspective, you see the beauty of their growth. And like I said, it's not going to be an overnight sensation, but it's if you're doing it for the right reasons, if you're passionate, and if you want to see them be successful, all of these things will come and fall in line and do it, and it'll just fall in place, you know, and getting and having the resources is huge. It just adds to the sauce.
I love it. Yeah. I mean, it's so true. And being, you know, intentional on every step along the way, I think is critical. There was a question for you, Johnny, too. And how can someone refer a child to JK? Mentioning my sister's elementary school has 10 and 11-year-olds that are really hurting.
Oh, Yeah, they can go on our website, the jkmovement.org. I was going to say the whole thing, www.thejkm.org.
Yep,
Or they can
Sarah's
reach
got you.
me. Yeah, there we go. Or they can reach me at my number 651-558-7815. We didn't talk about all of the programs that we offer, but we offer in-school leadership programming. And one thing that we didn't touch on was the COVID relationship piece, or the COVID barrier. That kind of falls in line once again with the relationship piece of our young folk. We do practice COVID strategies with our organization. So with that being said, we were able to gain the trust of our parents, letting them know this is important. We do follow guidelines. This is how we're going to get down, but we're still going to have direct services. I know everyone's trying to adapt to the virtual, and for the most part, it helps for some. I know for us, it's not as effective because we're dealing with young Black boys and young Black girls and kids of color and just kids, and getting that direct face-to-face interaction with our young folks is just, it's important. And you just don't get that from a virtual perspective. But we practice our COVID, and for the past 2 years, we've been very successful. Granted, of course, we've had kids and some staff that got exposed to it, and we had to shut it down. But from that, with our strategies and how we implement it, it's been very successful with that. So
Yeah, that's awesome. I was going to mention, Stephen, looks like Stephen has a question, but if you don't mind, if you want to unmute and ask your question.
Yeah, so I was on this Zoom and our CEO walked by and was like, I want to get this guy's contact information for Johnny Allen. So thank you for sharing your wisdom and knowledge with us. Can you repeat that phone number one more time for me?
Oh yes, 651-558-7815.
Thank you.
Yep. No, I appreciate the love, everyone. I think we all are doing it for the right reasons. Teamwork makes the dream work. I'm all about that. We just want to see our babies be successful. We want to see our babies grow up and get to where we're at. We joke about that, and my response to the young folks who talk about our age is, I've been to where you at. You got to get to where I'm at. So we want to encourage our babies to live long and be productive out here. So I'm all about that. And I'm thankful for everyone who's doing this work. It's hard work, but like I said, the gratification is seeing our babies grow up to be productive citizens. That's the richness in this. Yes, I have to provide for my family as well, but it all comes in fruition when you do it the right way.
Well said. I will mention to Marianne, there was a few different folks that were on the call, and there was a 9 o'clock or 9:15 overlap, and so they bounced. But Marianne is a grant writer from Elpis, and I just had to shout out to, she was so excited to hear that you were going to be joining us today, Johnny. And she said, if one word describes Johnny Allen, it's enthusiasm, and she got really emotional. So that's just, testament to your hard work and all the building that you're doing out in the community. So thank you for that. I know I'm happy to stay on a little bit longer for folks too. I don't know everyone else's schedule, but I'll make sure that I share all these resources. And if Johnny, if you're cool with that, we'll share out your contact information, as it sounds like you're already getting, your phone is probably buzzing as we speak. But yeah, there was one more question. Amy's wondering, do you help school staff learn how to best support their students?
We haven't tapped into the training phase of what we do, but we're open to it. I mean, we have people that we work with that help us along with staff, but I can definitely provide those resources if needed. But me personally, we haven't done that yet. So, but we're open to offering or providing that resource if needed.
For sure. And Amy too, I'll be sending out all these different checklists and sort of the training materials that you can kind of share out with your networks of folks. And if you have other questions or, can always reach out to us and we're happy to answer, but yeah, for sure.
I appreciate the love, y'all. This is what it's all about. I appreciate it. Like I said, I don't know all the answers. And I'm not here to do that. I just hope and pray that whatever I talked about, you guys can utilize it in your own playbook. And like I said, added sauce.
Added sauce. Yeah. And with that too, and I know Sarah's got that up on the slides, but there's some additional resources. I know, Johnny, you might even be interested in it as it just came out a couple of weeks ago, but Becoming a Better Mentor. And it really talks about critical mentoring and what that means, and cultural humility and social engagement and all these really important things that are impacting our kids right now. And so I'm excited to share that out with a bunch of other, talking about leadership opportunities and such. But, and if folks wouldn't mind to go ahead, and we always want to continue to learn, as, we too are trying to always be sponges and, want to take it all in. We always want to provide the best content and, bring folks like Johnny, champions in this work, to all of you to kind of share. And I think we could all use little spaces of joy these days, and to hear about things that are going right and going well, and how amazing our young people are, that sometimes we get lost in the noise, but not to lose that sight of why we're all in this work. So yeah, you can toss some feedback in there so that we can continue to improve and do better. And again, we're always here to support all of you. So reach out at any time. I love to see a full inbox. I love to see all your names come across. So don't be afraid to reach out.
I'd also like to add really quickly, I know Emily was talking about the elements of effective practice, which, if you're not familiar with, was that 6-part way to structure a mentoring program through recruitment, training, monitoring, and support. And if you would like to learn more about that, we don't have it listed here, but we're going to be hosting a deep dive into the elements of effective practice this upcoming March with a few of our affiliate partners in Mentor Washington and Mentor Ohio. Should be a good time, very informative, just a way to kind of deeply ground you in that the research that helps inform this work. But I also want to say, Johnny, thank you so much for joining us. This was incredibly informative, and I love to hear the feedback from everybody on this call. It's been a great way to start this Tuesday morning.
Yep. Thank you all again. Yeah, teamwork makes the dream work. Teamwork makes the dream work. Let's make it work. Let's make it happen.
Oh, great. Yeah. And I appreciate too, I think you're even in your car right now, you were traveling somewhere. So again, just still carving out some space for us.
Oh man, I'm always moving and grooving, sister.
Yeah.
Always moving and grooving.
Yeah, I think every time we've called, you're so good at multitasking, which again just shows you're made for this role of working with young people, because I think you have to be adaptable and be able to transition and multitask and deal with a lot. So yeah, another one of your talents.
I appreciate it, sister.
Yeah.
Thank you. Yes.
Yeah. But for folks that want to stay on, are welcome to do so. Otherwise, thank you all for being here, and we hope to see you at one of our next events. All are always welcome to join us. So be well, enjoy the sun today. I think it's going to be warm. It's not going to be 20 below. So get out there, get some fresh air if you can.
Yes, indeed.
Awesome. I think Amy jumped back in.
Thank you, Sister Emily. And thank you,
Thanks,
Sarah,
Johnny.
Sister Allie. Thank y'all.
Yeah,
looking
peace
forward
and
to
love.
continue. Yes. Looking forward to continue and I will continue. Just send me the invites. I would love to just be part of this. I think this is huge and it's pretty dope, to be honest with you. So just keep me in the loop And I'll do what I can to keep y'all in the loop. I have you guys' email addresses, so I'll keep you guys in the loop with everything that's happening with JKM.
We
Yeah.
would love that, Johnny, because we really think you're a pioneer in this work, and we'd love to partner with you in other ways too, when that works out for everyone.
Yeah, I was talking to Sister Emily. I know Miss Joellen. She's actually a pretty supportive person with the JKM, and so yeah, whatever we can do to make it, keep it moving, and provide resources and vice versa, I'm all for that.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yep,
Again,
yep.
yeah, I love your